Hello, Zingers. It is great to be here with you today. My name is Jonathan Mallard with Benzinga Pro Onboarding, and my colleague Ryan Faloona, the Director of Customer Success. Ryan, it's so great to be here with you today talking about low float stocks.
Likewise, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. Low float stocks are definitely something that I get asked about all the time. I don't know if you get asked about it all the time, but every day, not a day goes by where I don't get asked about low float stocks. And so today, we're actually going to show you how you can find low float stocks in Benzinga Pro. Now, before we get started with that, I do want to discuss a couple of things about low float stocks that I think everyone should be aware of prior to actually trading them. One of my rules, as you know, is trade what you know. So let's at least define what a low float stock is ahead of that. Float is basically the available shares that are out there for trading. So the lower that float is, the more a single purchase or a group of purchases can move the stock. There simply isn't enough shares to satisfy demand, so the stock actually moves or even has a big spread between the bid or the ask. Now, this can be very, very helpful for investors trying to make money because the stock can actually move quite a bit. So even if you don't have a whole bunch of shares, the movement can still give you the profits that you're looking for. Now, the downside to this is that this can also work against you. The stock can sell off against you very quickly and move quite a bit. So if you're not prepared for that, it can actually cause some pain. So just know going into this that getting in and out of a low float stock might be difficult due to supply and demand or the spread between the bid or the ask. And then whatever direction this stock moves, it can do it quickly. So if you're prepared for that, if you have a trade plan and you're able to get out, if the stock goes against you, great. Just understand that these stocks can move quite a bit. Now, obviously, with the added risk is some added reward. So let's jump right into how we can find them using Pro. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here of Benzinga Pro. All right, I've got the screener tool loaded in its own workspace. And this is the tool that we're going to be using for this because it's quite easy to actually find a list of low float stocks. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to scroll down. I have the all filter selected, showing me all of the different fields that we have in the screener. And you're going to see what we have here is float and percent float. And for this example, we're actually just going to use the float number because I want to know the actual float. I want to search on that for the actual float. So you can see here in the screener, we have some presets for you that you can use, but we also have an option for custom that allows you to put in custom values. So for the example, that's what I'm going to select. I'm going to go ahead and put 3 and then M to denote million in the upper boundary and then press enter. And you'll notice then what's happening here is that the screener is saying, or I'm only going to show you stocks that are less than 3 million float. And the other thing that you can do is you can actually click on this little icon right here, this little plus in the circle, to add this column to your results list so you can actually view those float numbers. Remember, with these columns, you can drag and drop them any way that you want. So I'm actually going to move this over to market cap. Now, this is great. We've just identified stocks that have a float under 3 million. Jonathan, do you ever get asked any other questions? Like, is there any other variable that customers have that's tied to float?
I mean, usually people are looking for a spike in volume, to try to get ahead of as much as possible of price volatility. So one of my favorites would be relative volume, at
Okay.
least that I use all the time. So you'll see it right there next to the average volume 90 day. And so for the preset, it has a 1.5 available, greater than 1.5 times the average volume over the past 90 periods. So that's a 50% spike right there. Now you can also, if you don't need it to be 50%, you can lower it just down to a custom multiplier of 1.05. And then you'll say, all right, I just want to see a 5% spike in volume, maybe hopefully getting in on an earlier part of that move.
So great point. So what I did here is I actually took your first example of a relative volume over 1.5 times, and it did a really great job. It actually found us now 17 different stocks. So we've now, from a list of 6,000 plus stocks, we've now narrowed down our results to 17. We put a float modifier on it and a relative value modifier on it, and here is our list. So this is a great example. One of the other things that I get asked all the time about people that are looking for low float is, how do I find low float stocks that have a specific price? You can do the exact same thing if you want, simply by going up to the price field and then entering in any price variable that you're looking for. So the point here is that while you can search for float, you can also refine your search for any other variables that you're looking for, whether it be price or relative volume. So Jonathan, I like the list that you gave us right here. I think the next step is, let's show the users what else they can do with this list once they get it.
Right there in the upper right corner, you'll see a down arrow into a little box, and that'll export this to a CSV. There's not too many in this list, but it might be more convenient just to export that. And then you'll be able to copy and paste that into a watch list inside of Benzinga Pro, and we can do some really cool things with that watch list. So I think Ryan's just exported it, and then he'll be able to copy and paste that into our watch list tool.
Absolutely. And what's so great about this is, as you can see, you don't need Excel, right? You can have any CSV program. In this case, I'm using LibreOffice, which is open source and free. You can go download it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just press OK here. It's going to open up, actually opened it up on another screen. Sorry about that. Let me get it over here. All right, so what it did is it opened up that list in a spreadsheet tool, and all I'm concerned about right now are the tickers. So I'm just gonna select these tickers. I'm gonna hit Control-C on my keyboard. You can also go to Edit and then Copy if you want. And then once you go back to Pro, just like Jonathan said, we're gonna go ahead and create a watch list that we can then use in conjunction with some other tools. So I'm just gonna click on the watch list. I'm going to go ahead and click the plus button here to create a new watch list. We're going to call this low float plus relative volume. I am going to have to spell it correctly. Geez. All right, low float plus relative vol, create watch list. The watch list is blank, and now to import that, all I have to do is paste those tickers that I copied right into the search bar at the top of the watch list. There we go. Now we have these stocks loaded into the watch list. So our watch list is ready. So what I can do now is I can actually create a new workspace. Let me go ahead and do that. And I'm going to add a news feed to it first. And what I'm going to do here is I only want to know news about these low floats that we just identified using the screener tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click watch list, and then I'm going to scroll down to the watch list I just created. And then I'm going to click done. And the result here is now I'm only being shown news articles for the stocks that were on that list. And so I'm also going to go ahead and add press releases. All right, so now we've gone ahead and we've filtered this news feed by this watch list, but it doesn't stop there. We can actually use this same technique in some of the other tools within Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and click on signals here. Let me close that watch list off. And I'm going to go ahead and add some of the signals that I'm interested in. I'm going to also add 52-week highs and 52-week lows. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to filter this tool by the same watch list that we just created. So I'm going to click on Add a Filter, select Watch List, and then select the low float and relative volume watch list that we just created. So here you go. Now we're only seeing signals for stocks that are on that watch list. You can see here, these are a lot of halts today, some new 52-week highs today, some price spikes today. So this can be a very, very easy way to find low float stocks that meet your specific criteria, and then create a watch list out of those stocks, and then use that to filter on some of the other tools within Pro. Here you can see that several of these stocks have had some action today already. So just a very quick way of doing this. The other thing that you can do that makes this really helpful is you can click on notifications and you can add a desktop notification. And what's so great about this feature is that now anytime a new signal that matches this watch list comes in, you'll actually get a pop-up in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen alerting you to that. And this can be very helpful. Let's say you're on another tab here. Let's say you're reviewing the chart for whatever reason, or you even have your broker platform open, or perhaps a browser window open. even if you're not looking at that signals tool that you just set up, because you turned on the desktop notifications, you'll get that pop-up in the bottom right corner of your screen on PC and the upper right corner of your screen on Mac. A workspace that you set up that you don't actually have to view. You can leave it running in the background and it will alert you when there are new signals.
Awesome. Yeah. So again, just to review, we screen for those low float stocks, and you can screen for just low float with a certain price per share or with relative volume, like we just did here. Then you download that to a CSV and copy and paste that into the watch list tool. Then you could also set up alerts within the watch list tool anytime there's an additional headline for any of those companies. So Ryan just clicked on that bell symbol, and you can see right there, you can select from the drop down of sound alerts or click on one of the toggle switches for those real-time email alerts. Then once that watch list is all set, we showed you how to filter the news feed to get all the news items on those low float stocks, as well as filtering the screener by that watch list to really, really have a pulse on every single item that's coming out on those stocks.
A lot that you can do with this. Very, very helpful tool. We try to give you all of those tools in Pro, and hopefully you found this useful.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for guiding us through all of that, Ryan. And stay tuned, Zingers, because we'll be coming out with a bunch of more videos on low float stocks, other technical analysis, you name it. So we look forward to talking again soon. Happy trading.